Hello, folks, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast here, World at the Moment. A happy belated New Year's. We're now in 2024, and in fact, this episode shall mark our first episode of this podcast for the new year here. So let's start it off here by discussing a little bit about healthcare. We know that whenever it comes to American healthcare, our system is not really the best. I mean, our country is one of the biggest spenders of healthcare, yet we still see patients pay hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for life-saving medical drugs or other treatments. And we all have insurance. I mean, now it's, mandatory even beyond just healthcare when it comes to, say, I guess, renting a car or things of that nature. Getting insurance is a must, but it's still a hassle to deal with them. I mean, patients have had stories and doctors have had stories of just negotiating with these companies, trying to get prior authorizations to give certain drugs. And on the patient side, patients repeatedly seeing their claims denied because insurance companies do not refuse to pay. I mean, it is so bad that, and when it comes to dealing with insurance, it's often a lot more exhausting to get the company to pay for the treatment than it is to really worry about the overall health improvements and the worrying overall about the patient's health by taking these treatments here. So it's not good. It's definitely a messed up system, very difficult to navigate, that really needs to change here. And the good news is we are kind of a step in the right direction, I would say, because I had recently stumbled upon an article discussing, or rather an article involving 3 pharmaceutical companies. Now, this hasn't happened yet. I mean, this is expected to happen around February 8th. But basically, Bernie Sanders had asked the CEO of Merck, the CEO of Johnson & Johnson, and the CEO of Bristol Myers Squibb to come before the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, or HELP, to hold a hearing on February 8th to answer the big question of why is it that drugs created by these big pharma companies, like the big Johnson & Johnson, like Merck, like Bristol Myers, why are these drugs manufactured and then priced at a much higher cost in the United States compared to other countries? And, some more context surrounding this issues here. Johnson & Johnson, Merck, and Bristol Myers, these 3 companies recently had some of their drug products under a new provision by the government, where the government decided that they're going to enact a new law or a new provision where Medicare will dictate the prices of certain drugs on a specified list that they have created. And on that list, there are a couple of drugs here. So one example is created by Johnson & Johnson. It's the Imbruvica drug that's used in, cancer treatments. Then by Merck, we have the Januvia drug created to treat diabetes, created by Merck, obviously. And lastly, we have Eliquis, a blood thinner that was made by Bristol Myers Squibb. So these are the drugs that are listed on that list to have their drug prices dictated by Medicare. And because of this, these big 3 pharma companies had actually sued the federal government earlier over Medicare dictating the prices of these drugs. So it is a pretty hot button issue here. And this hearing does raise a valid point. I mean, we'll obviously have to see what answers will be given by the CEOs on February 8th. But it really does beg the question, why are drug prices higher in the United States compared to other countries? And I mean, we can see it based on the evidence here. I mean, for example, if we look at the price of insulin, that could be hundreds, like $600, it could be hundreds, maybe even more, who knows? And then if we look at other countries, like say Chile, their drug prices are much lower, $50, $40, or $70, much affordable price ranges for patients to buy. And there are a couple of reasons for this. One example could be the fact that unlike other countries, the US is not a single-payer healthcare system. And what I mean by that is we don't have one payer, one entity paying for most of the healthcare costs. And typically, other countries do have that. They have this single-payer healthcare system where that one entity paying for most of those healthcare costs is often the government. We don't really have that in the United States. The most amount of government intervention that we have in this issue is really just the federal government setting up small government programs that are able to cover the prices of these drugs. And the reason why a single payer system is important is because if you have a huge entity like the federal government in charge for paying all these different medical treatments, they'll probably have much more or much higher negotiating power over these drug prices to help make them more affordable to patients. The other thing is there's not as much regulation in the United States over how drugs are priced, or the overall or exactly how different health companies should really conduct business in a way that such that treatments are affordable to patients. That's a problem that we have in the United States. We don't have enough regulation. And lastly, it's patents. We have companies like J&J, Merck, or Regeneron, or a bunch of others. They all have drugs that they have created, patented under their name, such that only they're the ones who can sell those drugs. And obviously, if you have less suppliers doing this, that kind of raises the price. But there is some hope here. Recently, I checked and found out that the patents for some of the drugs created by these companies, J&J, Merck, Bristol, they're expected to expire soon for some of them. So with those patents expiring, we can expect other companies to try to reproduce that drug. And if you have more suppliers, they'll hopefully reduce the cost of that drug. But really, this hot button issue of what are we going to do with our healthcare really raises the question here, because the U.S., ever since its founding, has led with the philosophy of freedom as its guidance throughout all of its tasks, all of its features, all of its agendas, businesses, including when it comes to handling the markets or handling the healthcare markets. We guide with that philosophy of freedom, of letting businesses grow without the risk, grow without the power of some tyrannical entity kind of restricting them. But now that kind of begs the question of whether this same philosophy can really carry on here in the healthcare field, because we can see that just like having not as much regulation over these companies is not helping our healthcare system in this country. And we can see that we'll definitely need some more regulation if we want to solve this issue. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens and what will those CEOs say before Bernie Sanders and the Health Committee. But really, if we want to fix our healthcare system, we have to think about adding more regulation to how we conduct how we give healthcare, how we provide care to our patients. Thank you so much for watching this episode of World at the Moment here. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're new here, my name is Krish. I'm a senior in high school, where I like to explore different health, social, or financial related issues through the lens of a senior. If you want to check out some of the other episodes I've posted, they're there in this YouTube channel here at World at the Moment. We produce new episodes monthly. So with that said, hopefully you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the next episode. So, take care.